This painting is one of Rembrandt's most valuable works. Created in 1642, worth $85 million. David Chen smiled at the tourist group. He was 58 years old, had worked as a tour guide at the Metropolitan Museum of Art for 20 years. Calm, knowledgeable, beloved, but that night at 9:30 p.m., 30 minutes after the museum closed, David saw an alarm in the security room. East Wing, 3rd floor, Impressionist section. Cameras showed 3 masked men, professional, fast. Their target, Monet's Water Lilies series. Total value, $140 million. Before David notified security, he noticed something. A tool in one thief's hand. Laser cutter, military grade. Only seen in one place, Interpol files. Because David Chen wasn't just a museum guide. 25 years ago, he was an Interpol Art Crimes Detective. 63 cases. $180 million in art recovered. Until his last case cost his partner's life. Now his past had returned, and David had 12 minutes. If you love discovering the extraordinary past of ordinary people, don't forget to subscribe right now. Hit that like button and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Now let's dive into David's real story. David Chen had joined Interpol at age 33, had an art history degree, but his real talent was profiling criminals. Every thief had a signature, a style, and David could read them. His first case was in Paris. A Picasso stolen from the Louvre. David found it in 48 hours. The thief was in Amsterdam. Professional, but made one mistake. Always chose the same type of frames. Second case, Rome. A sculpture stolen from the Vatican. David recovered it in 72 hours. Third, fourth, fifth, up to 63 cases. Then came the 64th case. London, British Museum. 15th century Chinese vase. Value, $12 million. The thieves were professionals. But David and his partner, Sophie Laurent, were close to catching them. But there was an ambush. The thieves were waiting. Gunfire erupted. Sophie was shot. David tried to save her, but Sophie died in his arms. That day, David resigned, left Interpol, moved to New York, and became a museum guide. For 20 years, he never dealt with art theft again. Until tonight, David, in the security room, watched the thieves' movements. 3 men, laser cutter, military discipline, and most importantly, they'd hacked the security cameras first. But David knew there was an old backup system, one nobody knew about. David activated that system and saw the lead thief's face, Viktor Kozlov. David's blood ran cold. Viktor was Sophie's killer from 20 years ago. Now he was here, in David's museum, with David's art. David had 2 options: call police or handle it himself. The math was simple. Police would arrive in 15 minutes. Thieves would escape in 8. David put down the phone and walked into the museum corridors. It had been 20 years. But David remembered everything. Every corner of the museum, every exit, every hidden passage, and most importantly, how to think like a criminal. He quietly approached the Impressionist section. The thieves were cutting the Monet. 3 more minutes. David pulled the fire alarm. The alarm exploded. Sprinklers activated. The museum descended into chaos. The thieves panicked. Viktor shouted, "Quick, now!" But water had damaged the laser cutter. The Monet was still on the wall. Viktor angrily turned and saw David. You're the guide. Why are you dash?" Then he stopped. Recognized him. David Chen, Interpol. You were supposed to be dead. David smiled. So was Sophie. Viktor drew his gun. This time, I'll kill you myself. But David was ready. In his hand, a taser he'd taken from museum security. Viktor fired. David jumped behind a Renaissance sculpture. The bullet hit stone. David threw the taser. It hit Viktor's chest. The man collapsed. The other 2 thieves tried to escape, but David had closed all exits. Security gates were locked. Police arrived 6 minutes later. 3 thieves captured. The Monet was safe, and David stood before Viktor. For Sophie, David said, I waited 20 years. Viktor looked up in pain. It was an accident. I didn't mean to kill her. But you did. And now, you'll rot in prison for life. 2 weeks later, Interpol made David an offer. Come back. We need you. David thought for a long time, then shook his head. No, but I can work as a consultant, part-time, because I love being a museum guide. But sometimes old skills are needed. Interpol accepted. Now, David is both museum guide and Interpol consultant. During the day, he tells tourists about Rembrandt. At night, he catches art thieves. And every day, he looks at Sophie's photo. I got your justice, he says. Rest in peace now. If there's one thing to learn from this story, it's this. Justice may be delayed, but it's never lost. And sometimes, an ordinary job is a perfect cover for an extraordinary purpose. Don't forget to subscribe to Invisible Legends. Where are you watching from? Drop comment.